Hello, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome. Welcome to day 4, SAP S4HANA Cloud Supply Chain live session. The usual question, can you see my screen and can you hear my voice? Thank you for the prompt response, and I'm very happy to be here with you today again for this Thursday's live session. People are joining. We will start because again we have a lot to discuss, and we will start as usual with a short recap. Then we will, or I will, come back to the questions you wrote yesterday in the chat after we close or we terminated the session. I am just searching for this document. Yeah, I have it here, so that's fine. And I have recorded the chat. So, and when we have asked all these questions, then we will go to the program of the day. So, small recap. On Monday, we started and we introduced RISE with SAP S4HANA Cloud. What is RISE? What is SAP S4HANA Cloud? How can you deploy SAP S4HANA Cloud? Then, what is the implementation methodology SAP Activate? Remember the role of the best practices, of the 6 phases, of the guided configuration. We will come to this configuration tomorrow. And we spent some time talking about the scope of the so-called lines of business containing application areas and scope items. And we will come back to this tomorrow again, but important for activating a SAP S4HANA Cloud system, for learning and for implementing. These scope items are have taken a great importance now, especially in SAP S4HANA Cloud. Remember, we have the line of business supply chain in SAP S4HANA Cloud, and we have for this content 3 e-learnings. We have supply chain, which we are doing this week. We have warehouse management, a separate course for which you can also certify separately. And we have transportation management, also separate course, but we have no certification for transportation management yet. We started on Tuesday with our deep dives, and doing these deep dives, my intention of these days is to get you an overview about the system, look and feel. We select specific or some scope items which have quite a general and interesting character. I have selected procurement of direct materials and indirect procurement with inbound deliveries. First, 2 procurement processes. I have explained to you the processes, and we had the chance to go into the system and to test, to demonstrate these scenarios in the system. Doing this again, I try to show, let's say, an entire process in the system, and focusing, of course, of Fiori apps, but also of GUI apps. You remember, we can have both, and you can use both, and both are okay. Of course, we try to, or I try to introduce the innovation topics. We talked on Tuesday on situation handling. Yesterday, the topics we discussed were stock transfers, the different options you have for transferring stocks between plants within one company code. We did not discuss cross-company code transfers. This is something we do not have for the moment in supply chain, in the supply chain e-learning, but I would like to have this in the next month because it's a very interesting topic. And we discussed also subcontracting, and again, focus on the process, focus on the apps. And again, we encountered situation handling for monitoring stock in transit, for example. We talked also about the predictive analytics that you can train and use for predicting delivery dates, for example, for stock transfers. Okay. I would like to skip supplier consignment. I did not intend to have a demo on supplier consignment, just presenting the topic, but I'm afraid because we have questions to answer and we have a lot to discuss today. Today we will talk about basic ATP and physical inventory, the same procedure than as yesterday. And on Tuesday, I explain the process, spend some time on this, and go into the system and show you this. If you have a particular or if you are particularly interested in supply consignment, tell this to me. I will spend some minutes on this. Otherwise, just for the other topics, just refer to the e-learning. Before we go to the program of the day, to the agenda of the day, let me share with you the chat. This was the chat from yesterday. Is it visible for you? Can you see the questions and so on? Is it okay? Yeah, thank you. So we stopped a little bit after the time, and we had some questions. Here, the first question coming from Hammond. For retail and fashion industry in the US, there is a lot of cross-company stock transfer orders, stock transport orders, and the ownership is taken in Europe instead of Asia. Question is, stock in transit available on the cloud release? The description here is very clear. What you are describing here is absolutely clear. I have problem with the question as I do not really know what is meant with stock and transit, but I will try to, let's say, I would like you to refer to 2 scope items or to 1 scope item you will find in sales. I have made some researches and let me show you how to find information on, this is in intercompany stock transfer, what you are talking about, cross-company stock transfer. So I would like to show you how to find something on this, information on this, of course, in the help portal, but also in our e-learning for sales. And let me show you where to find the intercompany stock transfer. It is in sales. Best Practices Explorer is loading. Here we are. Let me go to, you remember here we have supply chain and here we have sales with order and contract management, and we will find a lot of scope items for sales. Here we are. Here, intercompany stock transfer. But I'm not sure whether you are interested in intercompany stock transfer or intercompany sales, depending. We have both here. So just have a look on this, and if there are something, or if something is unclear or whatever, post your questions on the learning room. If you post a question in the learning room, we always try to answer, or we redirect you to a consultant forum. Thank you, Hammond. So we have another question in the chat, and this is this question here from Prasad. Is there any mass upload option, a Fiori app for uploading bills of materials? Yes, you can use for this the migration cockpit. This is an application. This is a Fiori app. We will see that tomorrow. Tomorrow we have migration on the agenda, and you can use this migration cockpit, yes, to mass upload bills of materials. Are you there, Prasad? Yes, you are. Okay. Is it okay for you? So, migration cockpit. All right. No. No, it is not. It is only, the migration cockpit is only there for uploading and not for updating. For updating, you have to use the Manage Bill of Materials app. Not sure if we have something for mass changes for bills of material. I'm not sure it is relevant, to be honest. All right. To be honest, I can search for this, but I'm not sure we have, because, and I'm not sure it makes sense, because what would you like to mass change? You may change all the bills of material of a material. Maybe it would make sense, but then you can do this very quickly with a managed bill of material app. All right, and there is another question. Where is it? Here. Harry asked, in the context of subcontracting, remember, in subcontracting, you provide components to the supplier, to the subcontractor, and then when the supplier sent back or deliver the ordered product, we post the goods receipt, and in the background, we post the consumption of the components. And your question is, what are the movement types in the back end? The movement type in the back end for the consumption is 543, and I would like to show you how to see that, or how to find that out. For this, I will go to, let's take this one here, Material Documents Overview, this app. We used it on Tuesday to view for a specific material. Here, let's take this one here. This was a material we use for subcontracting. For a specific material, you can view all the goods movement, and we will take, I think, one of these. This was a material document, the goods receipt. This is all what we did with this material, a goods receipt. So in this material document, we will see, of course, we see the goods receipt of the final material, of the procured material, and we see here the components, and we see here the movement type. So you see the goods issue for subcontracting stock. This is 543. And remember, this goods issue is made from the special stock material provided to the vendor. This is a special stock, so you need, if you use use the post goods movement app, the MyGo transaction, you need to enter also the special stock indicator, which is O in this case, O for components provided to vendor. All right. Is this okay for you? Sorry, do you hear the cat I have next to me? He would like to help me giving the live session, but I'm afraid it will not work. Yes, it is exactly the same. Exactly the same. We have exactly the same movement types. Absolutely the same. Okay, it is exactly the same posting. Oh. One-to-one goods movement is a return delivery to a supplier. It is different. For I understood the question. Sorry, maybe I understood it wrong. I understood the question related to what we talked yesterday. One-to-one is not, no. I'm afraid there is a misunderstanding. One-to-one is not a subsequent adjustment for subcontracting consumption of components. Okay, it may be used for sending back the main material to the supplier, which may lead also to adjustments. But for the adjustment, you do not use the one-to-one. Okay. Harry, I would like to come back to you. Was it your question related to the subcontracting? Not sure that Harry is in the list of the participants today. Oh yes, he is. Narayana, is it? Do you still have doubts on this? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Over and under consumption is on subcontracting. That was what we discussed yesterday. Exactly. Okay. I'm not sure whether we have an open question, still an open question or something. So if we post some overconsumption, it will be posted as one-to-one. Okay. That's a very good point. Let me do the following. We have this process in the system anyway, okay? So if you want, in the break, okay, I will post a consumption and we will have a look at it after the break, okay? So it will save a little bit, because if I do this now, yeah, okay, thank you. Let's do it this way. So I will use the break to do this. And now we move on to our next topic. So we will be sure what we are talking about afterwards. All right. Today, scope item deep dive 3, basic ATP and physical inventory. Let's move on. I think we have covered all the open questions of yesterday, right? So let's move to day 4. Here we are in day 3, day 4, a lot of slides. And while searching, I'm reminding you that you will have the slides tomorrow after the session made available. Okay, here we are. Day 4. Basic ATP. What is in the scope of basic ATP? 2 things, 2 pillars. We have the product availability check. You may know from previous systems, ECC or whatever, or on-prem. And we have back order processing. These are the 2 pillars of what we call basic ATP and what is included in the SAP S4HANA Cloud subscription. When we talk about advanced ATP with additional functionality, this is subject to additional subscription. Okay, so in the standard, let's say SAP S4HANA Cloud, we have these 2 pillars. Product availability check is, let's say, a background function that can be used for, it is used, let's say, at individual material plant combinations. And again, it is background function that is executed when you create production orders, deliveries, sales orders, and stock transport orders. The result of product availability check is having the order document, the sales order, the stock transport order, containing one or more confirmed schedule lines. Okay, if you remember yesterday, as we created a stock transport order, we had a message from the system saying that we have for the desired date, for the requested date, we have not enough material available, something like that. Okay, so at this point, the availability check took place. A background function again. We will go into the details in a minute, but let's talk a little bit about backorder processing. Again, we will go into details later. Backorder processing is an option that you can perform to prioritize, a difficult word, and to reschedule requirements when the supply situation has changed. Okay, so your order fulfillment manager, your supply situation is changing, and you would like to have a framework helping you to answer these two questions. Are the quantities that are already confirmed still realistic, and how can I automate rescheduling and redistributing materials in limited supply? So you want to have a check over the confirmed or not confirmed quantity. Back order processing is also considering requirements that are not confirmed. So you want to check if the situation is still realistic and corresponds to the reality. And very important, you need to have let's say an instrument, a tool that is redistributing automatically. Okay, you do not want to do the changes manually. If you see, okay, the confirmation date is not realistic anymore, you do not want to change the dates individually. You want a tool for this, a framework helping you to do this. Okay. These are the two pillars. We will start talking a little bit about product availability check. First of all, about scheduling and determining the so-called material availability date. And then we will have a look at the logic behind availability check and talk about the possibilities you have to configure availability check. All right. So just as an introduction here, you see different dates here, and the system is using, let's say, delivery and transportation scheduling. I will not go into details on this, to calculate multiple dates for each item in a sales order, for example, or in a stock transport order. The relevant date for availability check, now you can imagine, is the material availability date. On this date, you must have enough material, enough quantity in stock to meet the confirmed customer required delivery date. Okay. How does the system try to or determines the material availability date? The first kind of scheduling that is performed for a sales order, for example, a sales order item, is backward scheduling. We are in backward scheduling. The backward scheduling starts with the required delivery date. Okay. This is the starting point for backward scheduling. Starting from there, system take this date minus transit time, and we obtain the goods issue date or the goods issue deadline. Then minus loading time, and we obtain the loading deadline. And then we have two dates here, or two lead time, let's say. We have the pick and pack time and the transportation time. Both are starting here on the loading deadline, and we obtain with the transportation deadline, the transportation planning date, and with the pick and pack time, we obtain the material availability date. Okay, and then let's have a look. If one of these two dates here, transportation planning date or material availability date, is before the order date, this means the requested delivery date cannot be confirmed. Another way of scheduling that will take place. If both dates, material availability date and transportation planning date, are after the order date, so in the future, in other words, because the order date is today, then everything is all right. Of course, the material must be available. This is another point we have to discuss. But from an availability, from an availability perspective, we are okay, and the schedule line can be created for the document item, and the required delivery date can be confirmed. All right. So if one of these dates again is in the past, then we have a forward scheduling taking place. Forward scheduling is working a little bit different. We start from the order date. There is an idea behind forward scheduling. Transportation activities and picking and packing activities are considered to be in parallel. That means transportation lead time. The transportation lead time begins with the order date, which is also the transportation planning date. And the pick and pack time starts with the new material availability dates. That means the system is calculating material availability date, okay? And starting from there and from the order date, try to determine a confirmed delivery date then. Okay, so we start from there, we start from the new calculated material availability date, and we add the times. Pick and pack time, we come to the loading deadline. Loading time, we come to the goods issue deadline. Transit time, and we come to the confirmed delivery date. This is the way how the system is calculating the availability date and the confirmed date, which is very important, of course, for a customer. Okay. Okay, so now, how does the system check the availability of a material in a plant? This is what we call the scope of availability check. The scope of availability check is the answer to the question, which receipts, purchase orders, purchase requisitions, reservations, whatever, does the system include in the availability check? Which stocks, blocked stock, safety stock, stocks provided, components provided to the subcontractor, okay? Is the replenishment lead time to be taken into account? So all these questions are configurable. That means you can answer these questions in configuration using SAC UI. Okay, configuration, so-called configuration UI and self-service configuration UI. And this is what we call the scope of availability check. And the scope of the availability check, so the stocks that are taking into account the issues and the receipts that are added to this stock on the timeline to calculate the availability. This scope of availability check is dependent on two things: the business process, first of all, via the so-called checking rule, and the material plant combination via the so-called checking group. The checking rule is based on the business transaction. That means if you create a sales order, for example, the checking rule will be A, this is a key, And if you create a delivery, for example, it will be a B, the key, the checking rule, the key checking rule will be a B. If you create or release a production order, it will be a PP. And these values are almost fixed by SAP. Okay, there is no way to change them. It's a little bit different for the so-called checking group, which is assigned to single materials at plant level. Okay, so you decide which materials are treated or are considered in the same way from an availability check point of view, while assigning the same checking group to these materials. Okay, so depending on material plant and the business process, you can configure your scope of availability check. You can define the scope of availability check. This is something you may know from earlier releases. And before we have a look at the system on this, let me have a look at the chat. There is a first question. Santosh, can you quickly let us know the lead time setup, what is required to arrive at those different dates? Like in shipping point, we maintain lead time. In route transportation, yeah, okay, I will. Does the ATP check happen based on local time zone or the user creating the sales order or system time zone? Aha, that's a good question. Let me think 1 second about this. The user creating the sales or system time zone. I would say the system time zone, but this is something I'm not sure about, to be honest. And I never ask myself the question. So Prasad, if you agree, I will have to check this and to think about this. Let me answer for the question of Prasad. Can you quickly let us know the leading time setup? So what do we have? We have very quick. We have here. We have the transit time, and the transit time is derived from the route, as well as the transportation lead time. And we have the loading time. Yeah, here we have the loading time and the pick and packing time, which are derived from the shipping point. Okay. 2 from the route and 2 from the shipping point. All right. Yeah. So we have okay, Prasad, we have, I think I have to come back to this question tomorrow. Do we need to add the factory calendar that also influences the delivery date? Yes, this is absolutely important. Absolutely, you have all your plants are related to factory calendars. So of course, the delivery date is considering the factory calendar. Absolutely. To say this in another way, when you consider the transit time, for example, these are I think these are, you have either working days or calendar days. When you have working days, no worry. But then when you have calendar days, of course, the system is considering the factory calendar. For ATP, if supplying and receiving plants are in different time zones and have different calendars, what will be considered? This is also a very good question. I think it is more a question for cross-company stock transfers, and this is also something I have to think about, considering these calendars. Okay, so if it's okay for you, Harry, I will think about that, about the calendars and the different time zones and so on. Okay. Okay. Let's come back to, that's an interesting point, this scheduling thing. Configuration of a product availability check. I would like to show you very quickly how to configure this and how it works. So let's have a look. First of all, this is a slide, and leaving the slide, I will go into the system and show you, using this material in the system, how to maintain the availability check group, the checking group. Okay, checking group, depending on the material. So let me go into the system again. And here we are. We are in the system. This is a material document we saw before. We have here master data, a master data group. Let me go there, change material. And I will take the material TG12. Let's take the MRP. This, we have two places where we can maintain the availability check group. We have the sales general plant view, and you see the availability check group there. Okay, so this is a key. This is a key. You can maintain this key by selecting an existing one. Or we have the MRP3 view, where you can also maintain the availability check group, depending on the responsibility in your company and the authorizations. All right, so let's take this as an example. We have this material with availability check SR. And imagine I would like to create a delivery, or I would like to check how the system behaves when I create a delivery, for example, or a sales order. Let's take a sales order. So we will check how the combination group SR and A, which is related to the creation of a sales order, looks like. For this, I need to introduce a new, oh, sorry, I have to refresh here, refresh the browser, because I have created a new group, which is called configuration. And here, a small introduction to what we will see tomorrow. We have the Manage Your Solution app, which allows you to configure your solution, to configure your system. This is the IMG for SAP S4HANA Cloud. Okay, in SAP S4HANA Cloud, remember, we have not access to the backend system, so we have to use this or the central business configuration if you have the central business configuration. Here we choose configure your solution. And without going into many details today, I will just show you how it looks like when you want to configure the scope of availability check. Let's go there into the search, and I will search for availability. Availability. Okay. We have different application areas here. Supply chain is interesting. Advanced available to promise. Allocation check, this is not what we are looking for. Enhanced check methods, not. But here, available to promise, not advanced, available to promise. And product availability check, it looks good. Let's take this line. I select this line. and I am redirected to the self-service configuration UI, the SAC UI, which is here. Let me close this part here. I'm choosing the full screen to concentrate on my configuration. You see here ATP, product availability check. This is the title. We have some description. You can read more. And we have here the configuration steps, which correspond, each line corresponds to one SAC UI with one ID here. Okay, with one ID. This is the ID corresponding to the SAC UI, and you have different actions. Let's go to configure. And you will maybe recognize, because here also we have SAC UIs being native Fiori SAC UIs, or we have GUI SAC UIs, which are exactly the ones, or let's say the functions you know from the past, from the GUI. And this is one of them here. No? You see, configure the scope of availability. You see the availability group here, and you see the availability rule. We're interested in SR and A. Okay. Okay. For sales order and materials, when creating a sales order for a material having this availability check group, what is the scope of the availability check? And that's in there. Okay, for each combination, you can decide which stocks, which requirements, which future supply, future receipts, if you want, are to be considered or not. And this is flexible. This is configurable as you want. Okay, without going into too much details here, because again, we have still more to discuss. Okay, it was a small introduction into SAC UI and the checking. So you see here, you can decide whether stock transfer is considering as a stock or not. The same for the safety stock, the block stock, the quality inspection stock. You can here, that's also interesting. You have special scenario. You can decide here that subcontracting stock will not be considered as an available stock. Otherwise it is. So we have to be careful, because subcontracting stock is not on site. So it may be theoretically available, but physically somewhere else. So we have to be careful on this. All right. You will find in the slides here the informations, and let's move on to our next topic, which is back order processing. Okay, so imagine you are a order fulfillment manager and you have a critical situation, or this is daily life, let's say. You have your production orders delivering issues, or the stock in transit, the purchase order, the stock transport orders being also in having delivering issues. Your available stock is decreasing, and you have increasing requirements. Okay, sales orders or stock transport orders are increasing. So, question: what can I do to determine whether my confirmed quantities are still realistic or not? Or even if the situation is not so critical as we see here, let's check whether I can confirm even a little bit more. This can be used also for the other way around, when the situation is getting better. Okay, but in this case, this is an example. The situation is getting critical, limited supply. So are my confirmed quantities still realistic or not? And that's important to ask this question and to verify this. Otherwise, you have confirmed and you will not be able to deliver. And again, the most important question, or from a system perspective, how can I automate the rescheduling and the redistributing materials that are in limited supply? And these two questions are answered by backorder processing. Backorder processing is very easy to configure, but quite difficult to discuss and to agree with the customers. What do you need to do first? You have first to understand and to know the strategies we have in place in the SAP S4HANA cloud system or in SAP S4HANA in general, to redistribute, to prioritize your requirements in the new supply situation. And we have 5 strategies, not more, not less. And these strategies are fixed. And I will just try to explain to you how it works. And the purpose of the exercise will be then, together with your customers or for you as a customer, to decide which kind of requirements do you assign to which strategy. Okay, this is the most important work to do. Once you have agreed on this, it is quite easy to configure. Okay, so we have the win strategy, first of all, and all the requirements you will assign to this strategy will be, during a backorder processing run, will be fully confirmed on the requirement state, or if the requested date is in the past, then they will be configured immediately. Okay, so win means all the requirements you assign to this are confirmed as required. You can imagine this is for your prior one customers maybe. Then we have a gain strategy. All the requirements you assign to the gain strategy retain their confirmation at least, or improve if possible. Okay. Then we have the redistribute strategy. And then again, the assigned requirements, the sales orders, for example, that you assign to this strategy can have everything, better, equal, or worse confirmation, depending on the situation. Everything is possible. Then we have the fill strategy. And all the sales orders or stock transport orders assigned to this strategy do not gain additional quantities or an earlier date. They get equal or worse confirmations. Okay. And then we have the lose, quite easy. The assigned requirements lose their current confirmation and will not get new ones. They are not confirmed. They will not be confirmed after a backorder processing run. So you see, these are the 5 available strategies, and then you have to think about which ones do I want to use, and which requirements do I want to assign to which strategy. And this is something you do externally from the system, as we do now. You think together, so you explain the strategies to your customer, or you learn these strategies, you think about this, and then you imagine, or you decide. I take an example here, and then in the system we will have a more simple one, but this is something you could have in reality here. In the system, for the purposes of a demo, I will have something easier. You can decide to assign certain sales orders from certain customers to the win strategy, as well as the rush orders. Okay. Prior one customers may be, I don't know, very important customers for you. This is your decision, which kind of customers are belonging to this. Okay. Gain, remember gain. At least they get what they had. The confirmation, the existing confirmation will not be lost, and they will improve if possible. So why not assign all sales orders from certain customers considered as prior 2 that are due in the next 2 days, for example. Okay, this is an ID. This is something you have to discuss with your customers. Okay. Again, this is an ID just to let you understand how to proceed to configure and to set up backorder processing. Then we have the redistribute strategy. You could simply remember redistribute, everything can be possible, no? Better, equal, or worse confirmation. So all other standard sales orders due this week or due this month or whatever. Okay. So redistribute. Fill. You remember it was not so good. The assigned requirements do not gain any quantities. You could assign, for example, the stock transport orders, the internal requirements, if you want, to this strategy. Again, nothing fixed, nothing mandatory, just IDs for you. And lose, again, also orders on credit block, bad solvency customers, for example, the ones who do not pay. Okay, this is very easy here on the slide. This is an example, but it can take time to discuss this, and then the next step is, of course, configuring the system. So first of all, you will have to configure the so-called back order processing segments. And the back order processing segments are these here, these circles you see here. Okay, these are the segments. Define the requirements. A segment will be all sales order from prior to customers due today and tomorrow. You have to map this here, what you have defined with your customer on paper or whatever, or on the slide. You have to map this into the system. That means to define what are your prior to customers and what is due today and tomorrow. The same for the win and for all these segments here. Okay, for all these groups, you have to create a so-called segment when you map your decision. Okay, so being there, you will configure the sorting. I will explain to you later what it is, because it is easier in the system. And then you have to configure the variant, and the variant is exactly this. The variant is the relationship between a segment and a strategy. Okay, or two segments and a strategy. Okay, this is the so-called variant. Okay, so, and then you can run your backorder processing and monitor the result. We will concentrate on the configuration here, and we will start with the segment. I'm going into the system right now. Here, this is what we will see. Okay, let's go to the group. Have a look at the chat. No question. We'll go there and we will configure one segment. I have already configured the segment to save time, because it takes time indeed. So I have created some segments for us today. This is a Fiori app, as you see. So I say go, and the system will list the existing segments. And you see I have created 3 segments: one segment for win, one segment for redistribute, and one segment for lose. You can imagine to which strategy I will then segments. And again, let's have a look at the way how a segment is created. Let's start with the win segment. You see here the description is a little bit more simple than what we saw on the slide. Just for the purpose of the demo, it is a little bit easier again. We want to have all the orders from prior one customers due in the next 2 days. This is what we decide to assign to win. I click on this, and just to make things a little bit clearer, I'm going to edit the segment. It's easier to explain and to understand. Okay, so get used a little bit to this new screen. Have a look here. This is the segment name. You can name the segment as you want. For the purpose of clarity, I have called this segment for win. And the description here, we've saw this already. Okay, remember what I said before, the segment is containing the requirements you want later on assigned to a strategy. So we decided here to have the customers prior one in the next 2 days. So what did I do? I decided to have these 2 customers here. These are my prior one customers, these 2 ones. And I have here created a line, again, schedule line date in the next 2 days. I could add, just to show you, other conditions, add condition, and I could add, for example, a new customer. You see here a new line has been created. I can select different characteristics, if you want, parameters, options, how to define my segment. Could define a batch number, cancellation date, and whatever. Division, distribution channel, material group, whatever. Okay. And this is also something you can extend. We have an application to create characteristics for this. Okay. I will not here add a new selection, but just to show you how it works. And you create a segment, also important to know. We create a segment either for sales documents, for stock transport orders, or for both. Back order processing is only valid or is only relevant for sales orders and stock transport orders. Okay, so you have a segment, and then we have another, you define the requirements that are belonging to this segment here in this type. You can also define exclusion conditions, and you define also sorting conditions. That means when the system, the back order processing is working on these requirements, on these documents, in which order, in which sequence will these requirements will be treated. And I decided here to treat them according to the creation date in ascending order. All right. And before we move on, let's have a look at the question. Is there any limit to define segments? No, you can define as many segments as you need. Maybe there will be a limit by 99999, I don't know. But no, there is no limit. You can define as many segments you need. And there is another question. So if you have 10 priority 1 customers, you will add all 10. Yes, this is an option. This is, of course, an option, but you can find, if you want, you can find something else here. You may have, I don't know, customer group, okay? If you 10 customers or the 10 customers of a customer group, you can take this. You can also use a new field. You can create a new field for your customers and decide to have this as a characteristic. So you are quite flexible. Putting the 10 customers in there is a way to do it, but you can choose other characteristics. All right, there isn't the question or other questions. Do we have, is it okay, Valérie? For you, before I move on to the next question? Thank you. Next one. Do we have selection condition as payment terms? We had a customer who mentioned that all customer that paid advanced payment needs to get priority. That's a great point. Let's check this. If not, it would be worth to check if this can be added. Payment terms, you said. Payment terms. Not in standard. Not in standard, but I'm quite sure payment term is contained in the sales order anyway. So I'm quite sure that you could add this in the characteristics sorry, catalog. Sorry for this. Again, not in standard, but I think you could add this. I can check this also, whether it is part of the fields you can add in the catalog. Okay, so I think I have the questions. Is it all right? Welcome. Okay. So that's it. That's a segment. And I would like to show you another segment, another one very quickly. Let's continue with this lose here. Lose. Click on lose. You see, again, I decided to put a customer in this segment, and you imagine I will, this is my bad solvency customer, so I will assign this segment to the lose strategy. Let's have a look now a little bit more in detail on this one, on the redistribute, or on the segment I have created for the redistribute. A segment is always created with a purpose, okay, with the purpose of assigning it to a strategy. Okay, so that's why I named the segments this way. You do not create segments for the pleasure of creating segments. You have an idea behind this. Let me edit this segment. And okay, the same here. We have here a sales document type and the schedule line as definition of the segment. And you see here in the prioritizer, I said, okay, record created on the creation date is important, but I have also another sort attribute, which is the plant. And here I'm not happy with descending or ascending. I created a so-called sort sequence because I would like to have the plant being considered for any reason. This is just an example, but not in a descending or ascending order, in another order. And this other order, I have to define it. And I define this using the app, configure custom back order processing sorting. I define sorting, sorting objects, if you want. Okay, sorting sequences. Oh no, I don't want to create a new one. I have one already. Go. And this is this one here, the sequence name. Okay, the sorting name is plant. This is a name. And in there, as you see, I'm editing to explain easier. We have general information. So this sequence name, the description, I want to prioritize by plant. The sorting attribute is plant. And you see here you have a lot of choice to decide how the requirements within a segment have to be treated, treated in which sequence, in which order. And here I decided to have the plant 1, 1010, being the first to be considered, and then all the others. And then I could have a third one, or I could have a second one here, the 1020, and select the 1020 and say, okay, first 1010, then 1020, and then all others. Okay, and then I assign a sequence to a segment. Remember, this is what we want to achieve: segments, and assign these segments to a strategy. And this is the last point we need to do. We need to assign our segments to a strategy. And this is what we do here with this app, configure backorder processing variant. Click on it. And I have created one already. I have, this is my overall strategy, if you want, okay? This overall strategy assigning the different requirements to the different existing strategies. So I have started, I have created a variant being an overall strategy. I click on this And you will see that I have already in this, I'm editing again to make this assignment clearer. So let's focus here on, let's focus, I've made a mistake, I see. Let's focusing on this overall strategy here, strategy for S4C45, okay, called S4C45 live session. I have one strategy here in this overall concept, one strategy being redistribute. And as you see here, I have assigned 2 segments to this redistribute strategy. And this is a mistake because I do not intend at all to have this segment here assigned to distribute. So I will remove it from there, remove it. Delete means I do not delete the segment, but I deassign the segment. Okay, so I have one strategy here with one segment in there. Now I would like to use all the strategies for which I have created segment. So as you see here, I have the choice. I'm clicking on there here, and I would like to use the win strategy and add a segment to it. So you see here we had a new tab, which is win. I'm clicking on it. And now I will assign a segment to this win strategy. I have a choice here. I have all the segments created before. No, I could have a longer list, of course, and logically, I select the segment I have created for win to assign to the win strategy. And to be complete, I also had a segment for lose, so I add the lose strategy to my overall concept or to my overall back order concept. Here, lose, and I will add the segment for lose to the lose strategy. And I save. And that's it. Okay, that's it. Having this so-called variant, you can start the back order processing. And the system will consider all these segments, okay, and recheck, redistribute, reconfirm or not all these selected requirements according to the strategy we have selected. And there is an order. First of all, the idea behind this is to free up quantities. So the system will start with the requirements assigned to the lose strategy, and then to the win, to make sure that the win are served, let's say, and then we will have the gain, the redistribute, and the fill. Okay, so we can simulate or start the run from there. There is an app also for this, but we can do this from there. It doesn't matter what we do. I will simulate. The variant has been scheduled in simulation mode, and we can show the last runs here. I had a test before, so maybe we can use this first one. The one is still processing here. We can have a very quick look at this. Let's have a look how many requirements have been selected. No requirements at all. Okay, the reason is we have a fresh system without any sales order. We have a transportation order, a stock transport order we did yesterday, but I have no chance here to show you the result. Yeah, that's live. That's it. I didn't have so much time to create sales order. Sometimes we have, sometimes we do not have. So you get here the result of the back order processing. It is a list of requirements that have been changed with less or more confirmation, and yeah, that's it. Okay. Sorry, that cannot show you a result. Here we have a requirement. Between this morning and this afternoon, something happened, so I can show you this. We have one here, at least one requirement. This material here, this material has been processed, and unfortunately, it is changing from 100% to 0. Maybe it was assigned to the loose strategy. Yes, let's go into some more details. You click on each line to have more details. So let's have a look here. This was the sales order 26, and indeed it has been assigned to the confirmation strategy loose because the customer was the bad solvency. I'm very sorry if I changed, I probably changed the result of a colleague who were working in the meantime, so he will have to redo his work. I'm a little bit sorry about this, but this live here. Okay. Okay. So here we are. Here we are. Some words about ATP. Again, ATP is subject to additional subscription, and these are the main topics in Advanced ATP and S4HANA Cloud. Product allocation, where you can define sales rules to distribute requirements. Alternative-based confirmation has tremendously been developed in the last releases. You can substitute the delivering plant products. You can have partial confirmations in multiple plants. So it is quite comprehensive. And release for delivery is an application, a manual application you can use to distribute quantities between sales orders. And you have also supply protection, which is explained here for your own study. I will not spend so much time on there. And this is also something I have just put, because sometimes we have time to go to core inventory management, but not today. Yes, 5 minutes break as usual. This is the time in Germany. In 5 minutes, we meet again, and I don't exactly remember. I have promised to check something. I will try to do this in the 5 minutes. So I will mute and unshare. We meet in 5 minutes. Have a good break, good cup of coffee, cup of fresh air, and see you in 5 minutes. Okay. I'm back again. And you? Are you all back? So 5 minutes are over. So we will continue. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your break. I had some fresh air and some water and ready for the second part of this session. Let's have a look at the question in the chat we had before. I promised to check this during yeah, you are. This is the chat. I would like to share the chat with you just to be sure we are talking about the same thing. Subsequent adjustment. We are talking about subsequent adjustment. The question of yesterday was, what is the movement type when you post a subsequent adjustment for subcontracting? And Naraya said it is 1-to-1, and I said no, it is 5-4-3 over and up consumption, and so on and so on. So if we post some over consumption, okay. So I said I will test during the break, and that's what I did. So let's have a look. I have created a subcontracting overconsumption and underconsumption. I took the purchase order we had yesterday and I posted here an overconsumption and here an underconsumption. And this is the result. So we have a technical, indeed, we have a technical line here with 0 because I didn't change anything in the received materials. So we have a 1-to-1. 1-to-1 is again the movement type. Sorry, can you hear me? Yeah, I'm unmuted. Is the movement type you use when you send material to a supplier. So we have this technical line here, and maybe this is the reason for the confusion before. So this technical line is there. To be honest, I was not aware of this because it's absolutely, it has no impact, but the over and under consumption are with these movement types here, okay? And I used this app, post subsequent adjustment, using the purchase order, all right? So I think we are okay. Yeah, clear to for everyone? All right. Narayana, is it okay for you also? Okay. Okay, fine. Let's move on. Next topic for today, physical inventory, inventory count and adjustment. Okay. Inventory count. What's that? Inventory, physical inventory. We are in inventory management. Okay, so not in warehouse management. If you have warehouse management in place, you will carry out your physical inventory in warehouse management. If you do not have warehouse management in place, you will carry out your physical inventory in the way we will see today. And this is covered in the scope item BML in the corresponding e-learning. What is physical inventory? This is a business process where the physical stock is counted and matched with the book inventory, the book stock, which is in the system. There are two reasons for this. In lot of countries, the law requires to count the physical stock, and also for internal purposes, for internal reasons, it is important to have the correct available stock quantities. Okay, MRP or sales depend on reliable inventory data. The phases of the physical inventory are 3. We have the creation of the inventory documents, where we say what count. The physical inventory in inventory management is carried out on the basis of so-called stock management units. Stock management unit consists of a combination of material, plant storage location, stock type, and, if relevant, batch and special stock. Okay, this is the stock management unit, and this is the level where you count in inventory management. If you have warehouse management, you need, of course, the you call that the stock, the bin location. Yeah, the bin location, the quantity at the bin location. Okay, so you create your physical inventory documents, you print if you want, or you can download or whatever. You count and enter the count. Then you analyze the differences and decide what to do, either to post the difference or to recount. Before we move on, I have a question in the chat. Interesting question. Is there a functionality to upload the stock count? There is a functionality to scan the stock count. Okay, I will show you the app we have for this. In standard, of course. All right. So, physical inventory status. We work, or the physical inventory is carried out using a physical inventory document. The physical inventory document, again, contains the stock management units you want to count, and there is a status in there, so you can monitor the stages or the improvement or your physical inventory. You have the first status, which is not yet counted when you create the physical inventory document, then counted and adjusted once you have posted the differences, or if you decide to recount, this is the status counted, recounted. So you can make your analytics based on this status and monitoring. Before I go into these details, I would like to start with, here in this. Again, we see here the physical inventory process flow, and I would like to to tell you in which parts or at which stages of the inventory process, physical inventory process, you can deploy situation handling. You can deploy situation handling and use situation handling here between creating a physical inventory document and counting. You have a template, which is this one here, counting reminders for warehouse clerks. That means when you have physical documents that have been forgotten, if you want, you will get a notification or an email or something like that, triggered by situation handling to remind you to count. And here also we have 2 templates posting reminders for inventory management or information on physical inventory differences here at this stage between the entering of the counts and the taking the decision what to do. And there is also something very interesting also, but for these you need what we call intelligent situation automation. Intelligent situation automation is an extension of the SAP S4HANA situation handling based on the business technology platform. And on this ISA, intelligent situation automation, you can configure rules for automation. That means you can build rules to automate the resolution of data. In this case here for inventory, for the physical inventory, in this case when you have differences which are not yet processed, you can define rules for the system to design for you. And we have an example of a rule here. This is a rule program, if you want, or the rule decision you have. Decision made depending on the difference amount in the company code in certain currency. That means here at this stage, you can define if we have a difference less than, I don't know, then the inventory document can be posted, the difference can be posted. If the difference is less than, is more than, then a recount will be triggered automatically. Okay, so this is something I wanted to explain. We will go quite quickly through a physical inventory process, and then I will come back to the two slides, to the two explanations I would like to tell you. Okay, so we will create a physical inventory document. We will count. Sorry, I have not the right apps here. I would like to show you because we have new apps. So I will change this slide here. Oh no, I have everything. I think that's okay. I only miss one of the new apps here, but this will be corrected before you get the slide. I have prepared it correctly in the system. Okay, so we will create a physical inventory document. Yeah. We will print it or not. We will enter the count. Okay. I will show you how to process the physical inventory count results. We have two options for this, and a GUI transaction available and a new native Fiori app for this. And we will, I will show you other possibilities here to create physical documents, physical inventory documents. Let's put them there using the old GUI transactions. Let's start. You can create physical inventory documents using this new Fiori app here, create physical inventory documents. You see a Fiori app again with the filter bar. You can extend. I would like to have a list of all the materials available in plant 1010 and storage location 101A. Okay. So I would like to have a list of these materials, and I have two options. Either I select all of them to create for them, for this entire storage location, a physical inventory document. Okay. Or I decide to select some of them. I have to be a little bit, not to select everything, because other colleagues working on the system will not be happy. If I would work on these materials, I will select the materials we have created especially for this live session here. You remember the material for BME and the material for J45. It is enough for the purposes of the demonstration. So I select the two ones and I say create physical inventory documents. Okay, a new window here where I can enter some additional data. Document structure. And we see here split document by. We have separate, or the physical inventory documents are grouped, are split systematically by the storage location. So you have one physical inventory document for per storage location if you want. And you can also decide to split, to group according to other criteria, like the storage bin, the material, or the material group. Material is a little bit, very, yes, how can I say, extreme grouping, because having a material document per material is maybe not so interesting, but storage bin is a very interesting way how to group your physical inventory document. The storage bin in inventory management does not exist as an organizational unit, as a real storage bin within your warehouse. It is simply a field located in the material master record at storage location level. And this is a field that you can fill. You can enter something in this field. And this is only for the purpose of analyzing, monitoring, and sorting the physical inventory documents. Imagine you have quite a not very complex warehouse. You do not need to implement warehouse management. You only use inventory management, but you have physical storage bins, and you have the possibility to enter these storage bins in the material master record. And then when you go your physical inventory, you can sort according to these storage bins, so that you do not have to jump from one part of the warehouse to the other one when counting your materials. You will be you will have the possibility to count all the materials of certain storage bins at once. So that's the reason why we can use this field here. Okay, and here the maximum number of items per document. I think it is clear what it is. Plan count date, document date. Okay, you can have here additional added data. You can name this physical inventory document with an external number, or give a reference, have a description. And here you see here, set posting block or freeze book inventory. Okay, these are two options I will explain in 1 minute. Before I do this, I create my document. I leave them empty and simply create my document. And I would like to go one step further before I explain these two options. The document has been created here, and I can click on it to view it, or close this small window, this pop-up, and go back to my tiles group, PML. I will come back to this created document. Before I do this, we have also this option here for creating purchase physical inventory documents. This is the GUI transaction MI01, if I remember well. Not sure if this is MI01, but I think yes. So you can use this app also, a GUI one. I do not go into details for this moment. And you can also create a single one. Oh yes, maybe it's interesting because we are working here with a very old technology or framework, which is batch input. Maybe you know that from, if you have experience with ECC, you may know batch input. So let me show you how it works. So you make a selection here, and yeah, okay, and this is the number here of the materials which have been selected. And when I click here, create documents, there is a batch input that will be created in the background. Okay, this is a very old technology, and it is still existing. To be honest, I think I just wanted to say this to you, but to be honest, this app here is doing it in the same way. And you have also the option here to schedule the physical inventory document creation using a job. Okay, using a job. You remember, create, schedule, selection, and okay. There is a question in the chat. Split documents. If we choose storage bin, will I have one document with all materials per storage bin? Yes, exactly. This is what you will have. Yeah. So of course, it does not really make sense if you have one storage bin per material, but it makes sense if you have several materials per storage bin. So you can process all these materials and then move forward to the next storage bin and so on. This may help in a non-warehouse managed storage location. You're welcome. All right, so I have a physical inventory document, a very small one with 2 materials, but anyway, I'm going to either print it and go to physically count and write the count, or I can use also external application systems to proceed to this count. In SAP S4HANA Cloud, we need then to let's say, to enter the count result. The count result is something we have to do externally, of course, and we can enter this count manually, or we can scan also a count result document. Okay, this is the option we have here. This is application. This is quite not new. It has been introduced in 2108, so for half a year. The option to scan count results. Maybe I will search, if you're interested in this, I will search a video. I have a video somewhere showing how to use this scan. This is, of course, something I cannot show in the live session. Okay. So here in this case, I will simply choose Go. I could select, of course, my material document, physical inventory document, or a material, or a plant, or whatever. We see here we have only 3 physical inventory documents. This is ours here. The status, remember, the status is not counted. And let's go into the details of this material, of this physical inventory document. Let's have a look first at the general information. We know already what we have here. We have the 2 materials. And here in the general information, you see the document date, the planned count date, but we still do not have any count date. Okay. The count date, and this is where I wanted to come to, the count date is a very important date. No, I didn't explain posting block and freeze book. This is what I will do right now, because I want to start explaining what is the count date, and then I will explain the 2 options. Okay. All right, Valerie? Yeah, okay, I will do in a minute. So I'm just explaining here the count date, and the count date again is a very important date because it determines the book inventory, which will be compared with the counted quantity. Okay, that means in this case, let me do that. Edit. I enter a counted quantity. 10 pieces for BME and 20 pieces for J45. The count date is today, and when I save, the system will adopt this counted quantity and at the same time the book quantity from the system into this physical inventory document. Okay, the system is collecting both the counted quantity and the book quantity into the system. I cannot see it, but it is in there because maybe I am not authorized to see that. Okay, so that's a very important date. But imagine, let me come back to the slides. Imagine you are counting. You are counting at the beginning of the day. You are counting, I don't know, maybe 101 pieces, and the book quantity at the time you are counting is 100. So you would have a difference of 1. Okay. But you will not immediately run to your, I don't know, to your device to enter this count. Maybe you are working decentralized, or you have a sheet of paper or whatever. So it may take some time between the counting, the physical counting, and entering the count in any system. And if you enter the count later, the book inventory may have changed. So you will enter your 101 pieces, but in the meantime, you may have received a lot of pieces and you have 200 pieces in the system. So your physical inventory difference will be absolutely wrong. To avoid this, we have 2 options. We have the first option, which consists in blocking the goods movement during physical inventory. So that means when you start counting, or when you decide to, you can set from the beginning this posting block, or you can set it later. You set a posting block and you are safe, because once the posting block is set, no goods movement will be allowed for the material in the plant and storage location. Okay, so you set the posting block indicator in the header of the physical inventory document, and all the materials contained in the physical inventory document are blocked for goods movement. The block indicator is set at material, plant, storage location level, and it is set in the material master. So the posting block is set. So this is something you have done in the evening. The book inventory value is 250. You will count. The count result will be 255, and you will, have the time to post your 255 quantity. And once you do this, the posting block is removed. But once doing this, the 250 booking quantity will be adopted, transferred in the physical inventory document. So that's fine. You will have the right comparison, because nothing happened from a goods movement point of view. Nothing happened in the meantime. So you post, you set a posting block. No goods movement are allowed. You can take your time to count and enter the count, and later post the difference. The difference is contained already, is stored in the physical inventory document. This is one option, but it is not always possible to close your warehouse for some days. So we have another option for this. This is the inventory freezing, or the book inventory freezing. Remember what I said before. Normally, if you do nothing, if you do not set any block inventory indicator or freezing inventory indicator, the count date will be the date where the system takes the book inventory into the physical inventory document. And I explained the restrictions or the problems you can have. With the freezing the book inventory, you decide to which time, or what will be the date where the system will take over the book inventory into the physical inventory document. Okay, you will not wait for the count date to enter or to take over, to adopt the book inventory. You will do this earlier. So what is the idea behind? The idea behind is following. You must have, for this to be okay to work, you should have quite short inventory, physical inventory document, not so large ones. Otherwise, it would take too much time to count and to enter and to count. But for not so large inventory documents, it would be all right. Physical inventory documents. So this is the situation you are today, 26th of November. And at the end of the day, you have 250 pieces on stock. You have posted during the day goods receipt, maybe a goods issue, whatever. You decide, you have a physical inventory document in the system, you decide to count on the 27th, for example. So you take your physical inventory document and you set the freezing indicator. Okay, and that means at that moment the system is taking, okay, the book inventory of the morning, so 250. This was the last inventory quantity of the last day. Okay, it takes immediately the book inventory, adopt it into the physical inventory document. Okay, and then you can count and take your time. And during this time, your warehouse colleagues can continue posting goods issue, posting goods receipt, and so on and so on. The book inventory is already fixed in or taken over, adopted, transferred into the physical inventory document. Of course, you should not wait so long to count, because otherwise you would have exactly the same problems as before. So you fix, you count immediately. Okay, that's okay. But then you have the time to enter your results. All right, this is the other option we have. There is a question in the chat I have seen where both ticks are chosen. Does the one take priority over the other? If so, which one? Not sure. This is a good question. Indeed, they exclude each other. There is no reason why choosing both of them. And I'm not sure if it is technically, I have to try this, if it is technically possible to check both of them. Let's have a look. We're quite finished, so we can take this time. Oh, sorry. Here we are. Let me go there. Because there is no logic behind this. Either you decide to block or to freeze, but both of them does not make sense. So let me take this one again. Go, and I will take this one. Create physical inventory document, additional header tag. I can, yes, I can, but to be honest, it doesn't really make sense, because once you have blocked, you have blocked. So to be honest, I don't know really. Let me think about this in a minute. You freeze, that means let's create this. Okay, so you have both. You have both of them. This is a very interesting question, because now you have decided to freeze. You should have the book inventory in there. And you have, okay, and you have set the posting block, so you cannot, you have both, I would say. And it is exactly the same, because you have set the posting block. You cannot change your booking inventory anyway, because you have set the posting block. So once you enter, you count, you will have exactly the same result as if you did not set the inventory freeze indicator. The freeze inventory indicator doesn't consists in an added value, I would say. Okay. So you block anyway. Is it clear what I tried to explain, Valerie? Because I was thinking loud. Thank you. All right. Last point before we close today's session. We have another option for our physical inventory. In SAP S4HANA Cloud, we have the cycle counting. The cycle counting is a specific physical inventory procedure. You can use it when you want to count physically some materials at regular intervals within 1 year. So you may decide for some materials, this is not something you have to do for your entire plant or your entire storage location. You can decide to do this for some of your materials. Just count several times a year at different intervals. So you begin, if you decide to work with cycle counting, for example, for your A materials, for your for materials with a high value, or for materials with an important turnover. Okay, this may be the reason why you want to have these materials counted several times a year. The first action you have to do, the first activity you have to do is classify your materials. Okay, and you classify your materials using a so-called cycle counting physical inventory indicator. And the first you have to do, SAP is not delivering any cycle counting indicator at all in standard SAP S4HANA Cloud. So you have to go and configure first your physical inventory, your cycle counting indicator in the system, and then classify your materials. So first of all, you have to define them and then assign these indicators to the materials you want to count according to cycle counting. This is the configuration. I would like to show you that in the system. And for this, I'm going again into the system. We will go again to our configuration, manage your solution, configure your solution, and let's search for cycle counting. Cycle counting. Okay, this is not supply chain, but logistics. Why not? Define basic setting for physical inventory. It looks good. And let me close the left part of the screen. We have here cycle counting. This is the right one. We configure it, and you will see we have nothing delivered. So we have to create new entries. We define the cycle counting indicator for one plant. We decide how to call them. I will start with A. Okay, physical inventory indicator A. The number of physical inventory, one does not really make sense. I would like to count the A material, I don't know, 12 times. Sorry. Oh, I have to change this. 12 times. I was too fast. I start in the next one. 10, because we do not want to spend so much time here. B will be 12 times, and the system is calculating automatically. If I press enter now, the system will calculate automatically the physical inventory intervals, the number of days, according to the number of physical inventories I would like to have per year. The system will calculate the days between the inventories so that I will be able to automate the creation of physical inventory documents for these materials. The system knows, okay, the last inventories is some, I don't know, X days before, so I have to create a new one. And the float time is the number of day. It's a little bit too 10 days, for example, the number of days you allow you to complete an inventory cycle. Otherwise, the inventory is considered as skipped or completed, and your material will be again selected for the next time. Okay. That's application. We have an application for this. I can show this in 1 minute. It is the app called, sorry, I have to go back. I do not want to save. It is called classification, material classification, cycle counting classification. Here you are. And this is the app you can use to classify your materials. Let's have a look. I think we cannot classify because we have no CC indicators in place. So we will have no result. We cannot use it for the moment. Okay. All right. Concerning the procedure, how to work with the, I have explained here the way to work with the classification app and how to schedule the physical inventory creation. This is exactly the same procedure than for a classical inventory. You create inventory, physical inventory documents. You can use the schedule physical inventory creation app and use, of course, not the normal, but the process type cycle counting and schedule this. Okay, and there is a question: are we able to assign ABC classification and X? Y, Z classification to raw materials? You mean the ABC related to, I don't know, to value or to turnover? No, unfortunately, we cannot do this. You have to do this prior to using the app. Yeah. Okay, this is a great answer. Yeah, but IBP, yeah. Unfortunately not. Okay. Okay, that's it from my side today. We will start tomorrow at the same time, the same place. I would like to thank you very much for your attention, for your questions. I have some questions I will take with me concerning the factory calendars and the different time zones and so on for stock transfer. Thank you very much. I very much appreciate your questions. Okay.